there friends, what's going on? David Potts with Song Notes here, and today I'm going to teach you how to play Breathe by Pink Floyd from their classic Dark Side of the Moon. I used to listen to this album all the time back in college. We'd put on Wizard of Oz and all that sort of stuff. It was fun days, right? Now, teaching this on guitar, okay? Instead of just showing you how, David Gilmour and Pink Floyd is playing this across the board with their exact chord voicings, which I will do, I'm going to show you some getting started chord voicings especially, right? It'll be an easier way to get started with this song that'll let you play through the progression, sing along, get used to the chord changes and everything, and then you can add in those complicated chord voicings and some of the riffs and fills I'll show you as you gain confidence, as you gain skill. That's generally the way I like to approach my lessons, right? Start simple, meet y'all where you are, and then sort of show you the ways you can pile things on top, all right? So let's get into this one. Scott, this is going out to you. You wrote in asking about this song, saying you're trying to put together a version that could, you could play in a coffee shop, and you're wondering how to sort of fill in those blanks where Pink Floyd has the benefit of having a full band with lots of production help going on, right? So I'll show you some tricks there. Scott, thanks for membership over on my website. I appreciate it. I hope my lessons are helpful. And everyone else, if you're not a member, a quick plug for my own service. I don't have ads on my website or anything, but I've made hundreds of lessons, put most of them free on YouTube here. If you all want to support me, and if you want to get access to the bonus materials I make, such as the practice tracks I made for this lesson and my practice notes as well, they're available over on my website, songnotes.net. So again, thanks to all of you who support me, and let's get into this lesson and learn this song. So let's kick things off by looking at the big picture sort of lay of the land, right? The entire song is summarized by these two chord progressions, or these two sections, whatever we want to call them. The first one, this repeats over and over and over again. It's just going between an E minor and an A. Now you see I have it written here as E minor 9, which I'll explain to you in a second, right? That's a fancy way of basically playing E minor, right? Now, this is played over and over again in the intro and in the verse, and you could sort of hum along or sing along, right? Breathe, breathe in the air. Don't be afraid to care. And it repeats like that, right? 4 counts for each chord. Nothing too crazy yet. I'll talk about strumming in a second. I'll teach you how to play these chords in a second. But that's the sort of first section. That's sort of takes up the most of the time in this song. Now this section number 2 is going to go between these 4 measures. The chord names here are a bit trickier, and again I'll teach you how to play these, but just for context, right? We have our C major 7 over G, then B minor 7, la da dee, then F major 7 all day long, to G at 6, and then these crazy chords to end things, and then it repeats over again, okay? I'll do a more clean playthrough in a second, but those are the chords, big picture, that we're going to be learning. Now, how do we play these chords? I'll show you how Pink Floyd approaches them as far as the exact chord voicings, but I'm also going to show you simpler versions, again, because I want you to be able to play through this song and not fumble over some of these more difficult ones, okay? So first up, the simpler ones, right? The E minor and the A. Now, E minor 9, you're going to find folks teaching it like this, right? This is a chord I really do not recommend trying to play if you're first getting started with this song. Just save this for a little bit later. Get comfortable with the rest of the song first. This is not an easy chord to switch to out of the gate. You're going to have to go to that A and then switch to that chord in a hurry. Now, I've been practicing this for a bit, so I've been able to do it, but if when I was first playing this the first few days, that chord was a real nightmare. The way I would recommend substituting it is just use a regular E minor, okay? I do recommend using your index and middle fingers, because eventually, if you want to build up to the E minor 9, your index finger is going to already be where it needs to be, okay? Now, I also show you this A and the simpler version, which is A7. Now, A major is not that tricky of a chord to play in the big picture compared to the other sort of items on the page here. But I will say that A7, because it's 2 notes, right, 2 fingers here, it's just easier to play. So you can use that, it will sound great. And especially if you're going between this E minor and this A7, you could use the same 2 fingers, right? They're just sort of hopping 1 or 2 strings each, okay? So you could play most of the song, again, with just those 2 chords. You could sing along, play along with Pink Floyd, play along with my practice track using those. But let's look at this sort of second section here, because that's where things get a bit trickier. Now, the first of these chords, C major 7 over G. Pink Floyd's playing it like this, right? Third, third, second, open, open, open. Not terribly difficult. This is basically the same shape as an E major, right? It's just everything is 1 string thicker and 1 fret higher, okay? Now, if you want a simpler way to play that, just do a C major 7 without the G bass note, right? So you're not gonna play the thickest string. I like to mute it with my thumb or just sort of lean my ring finger into it. Third, second, open, open, open. Okay, that's going to work totally fine for your C major 7, especially if you're used to sort of your ring finger going to that 5th string note for that 3rd fret like it does in the C. Okay, so that's the suggestion there. Now the next chord is a B minor 7. Okay, this requires you to bar the 2nd fret and then do basically a B minor voicing, but then take your pinky off, which gives you that B minor 7. Now, I don't love this one. It takes me a while to switch to, and if you're not comfortable with your bar chords yet, an easier way you could play this is this voicing. This is one of those optional alternative voicings to B minor that I've taught previously. It won't work in all cases where you need to substitute a B minor, but in this song, it actually works perfect because you want this 2nd fret note on the thinnest string to ring out, right? Okay, now from a chord point of view, this is a B minor 7. It's using the same notes, right? Your B, your D, your A, your B, your F sharp. Those are the 4 notes that make up a B minor 7. Those are the 4 notes that are in this chord. They're in a slightly different order in this chord, but I'm sharing this with you because even though this is not what Pink Floyd is playing, this will work in a pinch if you need to get some kind of substitute for this B minor 7. And I want you, it's more important to me that you can play this song rather than you are playing the exact version that David Gilmour's or whoever is playing. So, okay, you can use this for your B minor 7, right? Now, let's look at the F major 7. I think the more full way you're going to see this played is sort of like this, right? 1st fret with your thumb wrapped. You can either fret or leave the 3rd string open on the 5th string. 3rd fret on the 5th string open. But the most important thing is that your thinnest string rings out. Okay, so 1st fret, opened 5th string, or mute it, right? Or you could put your fingers down there, but you want that thinnest string to ring out, okay? That's the sort of full F major 7. Now, a simpler way to play it, just 3 fingers right here, 3rd fret, 2nd fret, 1st fret, and the open thinnest string. Okay, this is an F major 7 chord, okay? That's the simpler way to play it. Now, moving on to the last measure here. Okay, what Pink Floyd is playing is this G. It's the same shape as the F major 7 with the wrapped thumb, just moved up 2 frets. But you leave the thinnest string open, just like you did for the F. This is a G add 6, right? This note, this E note, is a major 6 above the G root note, so it's a G add 6. If you want a simpler version of that chord, just do a regular G, okay? I think this high 3rd fret on the highest E string sounds totally fine in this case, so you can do that, right? And the last 2 chords, these are the trickiest ones in the whole song. D7 sharp 9 and D7 flat 9. Okay, this is the sharp 9, this is the flat 9. Okay, so I have the fingers written on the page here. The way to think about this one is if this is your C and you move your C up 2 frets, that's a D, right? But that 3rd string is going to mess things up. But what you can do is do a D7, right? 5, 4, 5, 3. That's a D7. Just like this is a C7. Okay. You just move that up 2 frets. It's a D7. But what we're going to do is take the thickest 3 notes from that voicing, played with your middle, index, and ring finger, and then you're going to add your pinky up here for the sharp 9, and then collapse your index finger and bar the 4th fret for your flat 9. Now, knowing how to play, that's one thing. Being able to switch to that chord with confidence and not messing up at the very important ending of this entire sequence, that's another story. So here's an easier version that I recommend. This is going to be basically the thinnest 2 notes from the previous voicings I showed you here, right? So open 4th string, which is our D bass note, right? Just like this is, right? So same bass note, and we're going to do 5th fret and 6th fret on the 3rd and 2nd string. I do my index and ring here, no. And then from there, we're going to go open 5th fret, 4th fret. Okay, so you want to get used to doing that. Now, this is a little bit awkward. This is not normal chord voicings, but this is way easier than doing this as far as switching to it, okay? And then you're going to start things over again, your E minor. So now that we know those chords, let's see how they look one more time, big picture, in tab context for the entire progression, right? So the simpler version would just be with this E minor, right? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 to a 7, right? And you're going to repeat that a bunch of times. Don't be afraid to care. Let me do it one more time, that entire line, right? Please don't leave me. One more time, E minor to A7. Look around, choose your own ground. Now I'm just doing all down strums on the quarter notes. Then we go C major 7, then B minor 7, then F major 7, then G, and you start it over again, okay? See how much more manageable that was? Now, if we were to do the full version, let's switch to the tab here. I got my E minor 9, because I practiced it a lot. It's relatively doable for me. So I'm going to do this top line one more time, then I'm going to go to the bottom line here. Again, don't feel obligated to learn these complicated chord voicings when you're first starting off, right? One more time on E minor 9 to A. Then we're going to start the sort of 4-measure gauntlet. Okay, here we go. C major 7, or the G bass note, to B minor 7. Okay, and then F major 7. Move that whole shape up. I have to slow down time here. And then you start over again, right? But see how tricky that was, those last 4 measures? I probably can't do this at full speed yet. But honestly, with the simpler version I'm showing you, that's more than enough for me to have fun with this song. And then the cool part is, before I move on to some of the cooler riffs and licks and fills and stuff, is this. You've learned those simpler chord voicings. You've seen the Pink Floyd voicings. You can sort of mix and match them. For example, you know, this C major 7 with a G bass note, this one doesn't give me that much trouble. The F, you know, F major 7 with that bass note, that likewise doesn't stress me out that much. But the G and the B minor 7, those are ones, and especially the you know, these chords, I'm going to go for the simpler versions all day long. Okay, so that's how you handle the chords. I wanted to show that to you. Now let's talk about strumming. Let's talk about rhythm and some ways to do some licks and fills and all that kind of fun stuff. All right, so let's talk about rhythm first. This is going to be a song that's played around, I think it's 64 beats per minute. It's just over 1 beat per second, right? A little bit faster than that. So it's kind of slow as far as the metronome goes, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. These are our quarter notes, right? Now, this song is going to use 16th note strumming. And what that means is we take our quarter notes, we divide those in half, and we get 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, okay, these are 8th notes because it's 8 sort of divisions per measure. But then we're going to divide all those in half as well, and we get 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a, okay? Now, what I showed you right there is the directions that your strumming hand is going to need to go for each of those 16 divisions for each measure, right? Now, you're not always going to be strumming all the strings every 16th note, but you do want to feel the sort of directional pulse of your hand in this manner, because when I'm going to show you these strumming patterns in a second, you kind of want to have your hand 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E, and see how my right hand is kind of used to, it's like running at the pace needed to keep up with these 16th notes. And then as far as the strumming patterns we use, it's a matter of just bringing your pick into the strings when you want to engage a strum. It's like putting a car into gear, right? Like this is neutral, right? Your gear is not engaged, right? But then we go into first gear or whatever, and the metaphor is breaking down a little bit, right? Here's a couple strum options. The first one is a bit simpler. It's just the same pattern in the first half of the measure as it is in the second half. It's going to be 1E and a 2E and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and 2 and a 3 and 4 and a 1 and 2 and a 3 and 4 and a 1 and 2 and a 3 and 4 and a 1 and 2 and a 3 and 4 and a 1 and 2 and a 3 and 4 and a 1 and 2, right? A bit more on the nose, right? Because it's basically this sort of simple-ish pattern that's repeating. It's played twice in each of the 4-count measures. But we could make it a little bit more nuanced and advanced, so to speak. This would be a down, down, up, up, down, up, down, up, 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 down, down, up, up, okay? So that's gonna be another option there. I recommend practicing these as a starting point. You know, get my practice track, play over it, right? Practice these. And then what's gonna happen is, as you feel more comfortable and confident with 16th note strumming, you're gonna find yourself adding a strum here and there, or maybe leaving one out, right? It's kind of like a drum fill, where the drummer might be in a sort of groove that's repeating, but then every now and then they do a fill where they're kind of going off the script, but then they come back for the one count and start the pattern over again, right? That's how strumming works in general with 16th notes, is you should feel encouraged to do that, okay? Now, before I leave the strumming topic altogether, I want to talk about raked strumming. This is a really important part of getting the sound. It turns this kind of strum into this. Right? Now I'm doing a couple things here. That's another raked strum. Okay, raked strumming refers to a way of strumming where you're basically doing a slower strum than normal. So normally when we strum, we're getting all the strings at once in general sort of practical terms, right? With a raked strum, we're going slow enough that it still feels like a strum. It's like one motion, one smooth motion, but it's slow enough where it's like spread out over time. So it's called a rake strum. You're gonna see it written up in tabs, usually with a little squiggle to the left of the line here. You can rake strum as part of a down strum or as part of an up strum, okay? Here's a couple ways to approach it in this song, right? It's used on the E minor a lot, right? And the two things to keep in mind. One is, if you strum closer to the saddle of the guitar, you're gonna get this sort of metal, like tinny metal, I don't know the words to describe this other than it seems like higher in pitch and it's metallic, not metal, like more like, you know, it's sort of a tinny, airier kind of thing. It works really well with the sort of psychedelic style of music in general, right? You don't want to use it all the time, because that would sort of be like too much, right? You just want to, maybe that one count. And even, you wouldn't want to use it every measure, I don't think, because it might be a little bit too much. So experiment with it though, right? Just a sort of slow strum if you can, closer to the saddle, and the inch or two closer to the saddle. It's going to give you that sound, okay? With rake strums in general, if you can sort of get an arc or an arch to your strum, so it's not just a single line will work, but if you can increase the distance that your pick travels over the strings, right? It's just gonna naturally make the rake sound more exaggerated, which is kind of good, right? And then the final tip for rake strumming in general is, if you do a really slow rake strum, you generally want the last string you play to happen on the strong beat. And that means you have to start your rake strum a little bit early. So the quick example here is, if we're gonna strum an E minor normal, then we're gonna go to an A minor normal. Now on my next E minor strum, 3 and 4 and, right? That last note I strum, that should be the one count, which means that I have to start this, right? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, right? And 1. So it's almost like you start this on the end count and 1. So that 1, that last note you strum, that last string you strum happens on the beat. You got to try this out for yourself, okay? You don't want to start a rake strum that's a slow, dramatic rake strum. You don't want to start it on the one count, because 1 and 2 and 3 and it's not terrible. 1 and 2. You want to end the strum on the one count, right? And that's where raked up strums in particular come in handy, like in this song, because that bass note is really powerful for establishing the tonality of the chord. So that's your final tip there for rake strumming. I hope that's helpful for you. But let's talk about some other stuff here. There's two more things I want to show you. One is when we're playing the E minor to the A, what we can do is imitate. Now, Scott, you asked about this. You can imitate the sound of that slide guitar. I don't know if it's a lap steel, but you hear it in Pink Floyd's recorded version so clearly, right? It's like this smooth, glistening, smooth lead guitar thing that's like transitioning between a few notes. The two riffs I'll show you are, okay, it's going between this note E down to B and then C sharp, right? That's what you'll hear the riff, the slide guitar doing. So the way I have it written out here, there's no strumming. You can add your own strumming, but the circled notes are the notes you want to accent in your strums. I recently did a lesson on accented notes within strumming patterns. You can check that out. I'll put it on my lesson page as well. But the first riff would be... Okay, let me repeat it. And the second riff. Second one was sloppy. Let me do it again. One more time, second riff. Okay, now when you hear Pink Floyd play this in context, they're going to do riff 1 first, then the next time through, literally in the next measure, they go to riff 2, then the next time they go to riff 1. So let me do that here just to show you how it sounds, right? Again, it's not going to sound as elegant and smooth as the actual slide guitar, but I'll demonstrate what it sounds like, okay? So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... Okay, this is riff 1, now to riff 2. And back to riff 1. And I'll do riff 2 to close things out. Okay, now, it takes a lot of practice and nuance to do, admittedly. Playing the notes that I've tabbed out is one thing. Adding your own strumming, getting the feel just right is another thing. I could use a lot of practice on this. With riff 2 especially, you want to play E minor with this 2nd fret note added on the thinnest string. This is kind of an awkward chord shape for me to switch to cleanly for that first strum of the 1 count of that measure. So it takes some practice, right? Now, I recommend using your ring finger up here, just because it frees up your pinky then to play that 3rd fret note of the 2nd string, which you need to do it before you go to the A, okay? It's a bit trickier. I tend to wrap my thumb a lot when I play. If you keep your thumb behind the neck, I find that it sets up your pinky for more of a position of confidence and power. Whereas if I do this, my pinky is kind of hung out to dry a little bit, right? Okay, I'm doing a full strum of E minor up to the 3rd fret of the 2nd string. I'm not going higher than that, right? And then I disengage the E minor, then go to the A minor, okay? Riff 2 one more time. There, I just got rid of the E minor altogether for that 3rd fret note. You can do that. So that's one thing I wanted to show you there. Listen to Pink Floyd's version. You'll hear that little melody written out. Now, the last thing here, okay, and Scott, this is going to answer more of your questions, is adding some riffing over this A chord, the A major or the A7. Now, okay, the simple way to do this, right? We're going between E minor and A. Now, we're on A. It's a perfect time to do some little fills and riffs, right? The simplest ones, I'm just going between A sus2, where we take the 2nd string note off, back to an A, and then A sus4, which is where we add that 3rd fret to the 2nd string. So A sus4 has this note, regular A has this note, and then A sus2 has this note, the open B string, okay? You can do these over an A7 as well. You just basically take off your 2nd fret finger for the A sus2, add the 3rd fret note for the A sus4, right? But you're leaving the 3rd string open the whole time, okay? Those are the sort of simpler ones you can do. But the more fun ones, because I don't get to use them that much and they sound really great in this song, is to start with your A7, right? Left middle, left ring. All right, so you're gonna notice here I have these red numbers, or red letters, I'm sorry. That just stands for your fingers, right? Index, middle, and ring, all left. L is left, so left, middle, left index, left ring. I'm including this to make it clear what is the easiest way to play these chords. So if you play your A7 with your middle and your ring, like this, what you can do then is slide up your middle to the 4th fret and then put your index finger in the 3rd fret. And you're always going to play, for all these voicings, you're going to play the open 5th, 3rd, and 1st strings. Just like you will with an A7. Okay, this is an A7. This is whatever we're going to call this chord. Right? Then you just keep so you're basically, your middle finger is always on the 4th string. That's the whole reason I'm doing this voicing, right? Your A7, you go up to 4 and 3, go up to 5 and 5, go up to 7 and 7. Okay? All these kind of sound A-ish. And your goal is going to be to be able to play, strum your A7. Simplest one is just go between your A7 and this 4th and 3rd fret version and back to your A7, okay? Right? But if you look at the example exercise I have tabbed out, it's going to go between the E minor, 1, 2, 3, 4, E minor, to A7. Okay, really fun, relatively accessible exercise. I'm doing all these on the quarter notes, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4. All right? The trick, though, is once you get comfortable with those voicings, what you can do is then put them in for whatever strum you're using. Just sort of freely go between these. For example, you could even start on the high end. Right? There's countless ways you can sort of dice that up. It's a really fun way to do things. So, Scott, everyone else watching, between that A trick I just showed you, between the E minor, between the Raked Strumming, right? You're in good shape. You can sort of make this your own. And for the Raked Strumming, even when you go to that last 4 measures, you can do a single strum on the 1 count, Raked strum, and then the last measure. Okay, so there we have it. Breathe by Pink Floyd. This is the only progression you need. Now, a couple notes in farewell. Number 1, I made some practice tracks for this. It goes over the chord progression, right? The E minor and A part is shortened a little bit. But it repeats for like 7 minutes or 5 minutes or something. I have a version with guitar that I played and without guitar, right? But it's all created by me in GarageBand. It's sort of giving you the sort of the practice track to play on here. I was thinking about like a racing track. I mean, but literally it's a practice track you can use to get comfortable with this. There's no words, there's no singing, none of that. But it's a great way to sort of get familiar with this. It's a little bit slower than Pink Floyd's recorded version, okay? So that's available over on my website, songnotes.net. I also have this printout I made showing you all the notes and tabs for this lesson. The lyrics aren't in there for copyright reasons. I don't want to mess with that, but you can look up the lyrics on Ultimate Guitar, whatever. And if there's enough demand for y'all want to see me make a song sheet that you can buy with the lyrics, let me know. But otherwise, the practice sheet I made is going to give you all the goods as far as the chord shapes, the progressions, the strumming notes, some of these A minor voicings. It's all written up for you. Okay, and then what is it I was going to say last, which is this. If you want to practice soloing over this song, you can use my practice tracks for that. You're going to want to use the E Dorian scale, right? Another way to say that is the E minor scale, but instead of your minor sixth, which is what minor scales typically have, natural minor scales, you used a raised sixth, so it's a major sixth, right? So I am not an expert on that as far as soloing, but there are some great videos I saw on YouTube over showing you how to solo over this, right? Using the Dorian scale and all that stuff. It's above my pay grade at the moment, but hey, my practice track exists, and if you want to try this out, if nothing else, man, just take those notes in the E riff I taught you, right? This goes from E to B to C sharp. That's riff number 1. And then this one goes from F sharp to D to E. You could find those same notes all over the fretboard and just recreate the sound of that, whatever solo you want to make using just those notes, right? Now, again, it's going to be using the Dorian scale. If you find any Dorian charts, or you go to my Fret Monster tool and just put in Dorian and then key of E. It's going to show you all those notes all over the fretboard. Okay, just adding that for context if you do want to practice soloing this. So Scott, hope you found this helpful. Let me know how it goes. Check out covers on YouTube from other people as well. I think that's a great way to learn songs like this, is see how other people approach them on their individual acoustic guitar, right? And otherwise, y'all, I hope this is helpful. If you've watched this far and you're not a member on my Song Notes website, I suggest check it out. Even if you join for a month, right? You join, you can cancel, it'll turn off auto renewal. You can stick around for the rest of that month. And later on, if you decide you want to re-up, you just can join another plan. It's a great community of folks. It's one of the things I'm most proud of is the community forum. It's members only, but you go in there and there's so much great stuff happening all the time. So many things I am always learning from all of you who are members who are posting in there. So I cannot recommend it enough, right? And again, membership is the best way to support me and Song Notes. I do this full time, just thankfully to all of you who are supporting me with membership. So it's tremendously appreciated. It lets me keep my website ad-free and all that kind of stuff. I enjoy being truly independent and audience-driven with this. So thank you all very much. Send in requests as always. Send in specific parts of the request. What about the song has given you trouble? What are other lessons lacking that you found online? The more specific you can be, the more likely I'm going to turn it into a lesson. I'm just going to tell you that right now, right? I love the specific parts of each request. So take care, everyone. I'm heading off to the Texas Gulf Coast this weekend for spring break, Port Aransas, and I'm going to play some guitar there with my father-in-law. I'm excited. So stay tuned for that, and I'll see you in the next one. Until then, my friends, bye-bye.